Hey everybody, I'm Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at a cute but deceptively tactical game for two players called Jurassic Snack. In this game, the players are going to be each controlling a team of dinosaurs, and they're going to be moving them around the board, eating up the grass tokens, trying to get the highest score. But you have to be careful because out there among the grass tokens are hiding possibly a couple of T-Rexes. And if they pop up, then they can start eating the players' pieces, the players' dinosaurs. And so the way to win is either to eat better grass, get a higher score that way, or eliminate all of your opponent's pieces. Let me show you how it works. We'll come on back after that. I'll tell you what I think of it. So here's what the game looks like, set up, ready to begin. One player is going to be taking the role of the yellow dinosaurs, the other player will be blue, and you are going to be going back and forth, taking turns, moving these around. There's two ways to win the game. You can win by, at the end of the game, when all of the grass is gone, or there's nothing else to be done, then you're going to count up the victory points that are found on the other side of these grass tokens. The other way is if all of your opponent's characters are eliminated by these awesome little T-Rex figures, then you simply win. If you eliminate all of the opponent's pieces, you just win. We don't count score or anything. You just take the victory. So the way it goes is on your turn, you are going to take two actions moving figures on the board, except for the first player on their very first turn, they get a single action. And when it's your turn, you are going to pick one of your own or a T-Rex, there's none at the beginning, and you're going to move in a straight line until you hit something. If you move in a straight line until you get on grass, you'll stop there. But if there's an empty line of a few spaces, then you'll move through the empty spaces until you hit something, all right? And so let's say blue is going to be first, and they'll go ahead and pick one of their characters and take one turn. So they're going to move from there to there, and they'll reveal this token. Now this token here is the most likely token you'll find. It's simply some yummy grass. It's worth 2 victory points, and it doesn't have any other power. So you take it, you reveal it, and then you keep it. And since that was the first player's first turn, that's all they did. Comes back to yellow. I get 2 things on my turn. So I'm going to go ahead and move this one to here. Reveal that. Ooh, some yummy grass. And then I will move to here in the corner. I can do it with the same character, or I can do it with a different one. It doesn't matter. And I reveal this one. Now this token here is worth 1 victory point. And with this one, I can take a look at all the grass tokens on one of the quadrants here, one of the lots, all right? So now I would perhaps take a look at all these if I want, I would reveal them one by one to myself, take a peek at all of them, put them back. Okay, great. And then it goes back to my opponent. So let's say they are going to go here. Let's see what they got. Oh, look at that. They got a baby. So they revealed that one. Each player already starts with an extra character outside the board. And so if you reveal one of these, then you're going to add one of yours to an empty spot on the board. So they might populate that space there. Then they keep that score token. And then they can move again. So let's say they'll move that new one, in fact, right here next to it. Right there. And we reveal that. It's just some yummy grass. And this goes back and forth, like I said, until the game is over. Among these, you are going to have a few different things. You've already seen yummy grass, you've seen the baby tiles, but there's a few other things. Namely, there's a couple of the T-Rex shows up. And so, for example, let's say on an upcoming turn, this player goes here for 1 action, reveals that, whatever, and then goes here, and they reveal this token, then a T-Rex is going to show up in that spot, consume this character, and take over its spot, like so. Now that token is worth 3 victory points, but you did just lose one of your characters. And from that point on, now that there is a T-Rex on the board, then that T-Rex can move. It moves the same way, a straight line until it hits a wall or something. It will not go onto the grass, so if I'm going to move it, I could do this for 1 action, and I could do this for another action, but if this wasn't here, then I could do and eat this. All right, and then that's eliminated from the board. And you can start putting pressure on your opponent that way, because if you eliminate them completely, then the game's over and you've won. So besides those, you've got a few other special tokens out here. This one for example, lets you move a T-Rex, assuming there is one, anywhere on the board that's clear, that's empty, and then you keep it for 1 victory point. By the way, if you ever reveal one of these and it's an impossible thing to do, such as this one, then you simply get to look at 2 face-down tokens and then put them back where they came from. You've got this one that lets you do the same thing, but to one of the player characters, yours or an opponent's character. So if I reveal this, let's say I'm the yellow player, I could, move this character and put it right there. Not that anything's going to happen to it or anything, but I want it right there. So you could do that, and then you've got a couple of other ones. You've already seen the baby one. You've seen that one that lets you look at what's out there. And then there's one other one that is a volcano, and it's in here somewhere. There it is. So the volcano's worth 1 victory point, and it lets you remove 2 grass tokens from the board without looking at them. You just take 2, remove them out of the board. And that's pretty much it. Again, this continues until the game is over, because all of these have been eaten, or players go back and forth a couple of turns without basically furthering the game. Then you stop and count up your victory points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points for this player, right? If that's what they had. Or someone is eliminated from the board. Now, something else to mention is that the way you set up this board is completely up to you. It does not have to be a square when you set it up. And you can, in fact, set this up in other configurations. So you could do this if you wanted to and just have a single long straight line like this. You could set it up in this sort of configuration if you wanted to. You can do whatever you want as long as the sides are fully touching when you build this. So you cannot do something like this. That's not okay, because we need to be able to easily travel around. So not that, but you can do this. You can do an L. You can do whatever, okay? So a couple of different ways to set this up, and when you are setting up the game, there's a couple of spots on each tile that tell you what the colors where they begin. So yellow right there, blue right there, yellow right there, blue right there, etc. So that's it. That's how the game works. Very short, quick, simple game to figure out and play. Let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. All right, so that is Jurassic Snack. This is a game designed by Bruno Cathala, one of my favorite designers, and it is a game that, upon first blush, I thought was a reprint of a much older game from the same designer called War and Sheep. And in that game, you are also moving around sheep in that case, but it has a deck of cards. There's a little bit more going on. So this, I'm fairly certain, is inspired by that, but simplified and sort of streamlined in many ways. So let me tell you what I think of it. I'm going to break it down here. So we're going to kick it off with thematic ties. I think this has a very cute theme. It makes sense. It works well. The idea of the T-Rex popping up and then chasing down the other dinosaurs really changes the dynamic of the game, of the way it plays out, but it stays within the theme of the game. And it really, depending on if they show up later or show up earlier in the game, it really does affect the way the whole thing's going to play out, you know. So thematically, I find it very clever, very charming, and interesting, well implemented. The aesthetics here are fantastic. I love the miniatures are extremely well done. They're cartoony, but they're solid, nice and chunky. They got a little, their little eyes are painted, so it adds a little personality to them. They're just great. And then the rest of the components are nice, thick, great cardboard as well. The illustrations also very appealing and clear, very clear. So high remarks when it comes to the aesthetics. Replayability is pretty nice. I like the fact that, as I said, depending on what comes up and when, you're going to have different information. You are going to, the players together, push the game towards a more confrontational game, or perhaps it'll be a game more about cutting off your opponents from the grass tokens and just eating up the field. So I like that. Depending on when things, sort of crop up, it'll change the way that the game plays out. That's going to add to the replayability. On the flip of that, though, there's only a few different kinds of tokens out there, and so the replayability is not immense either. Once you know the kinds of tokens that are out there, once you've played a few times and you can spot what would be a good placement for a new baby, what would be a good spot to fly the T-Rex to if that happens to come up, then those things become less, they inject less replayability into the game once you sort of can spot those things very quickly and in a very obvious way. So pretty good, not fantastic, okay? Game length is fantastic because the game takes 10-15 minutes. It might even be shorter if you, like I said, bump into those T-Rexes early, especially both of them. That game's going to be quick, you know. But 15 minutes is about the average, and I think it's really, it's a tight, interesting 15 minutes. It really, there's a lot going on in those 15 minutes, and I like that. The ease of play is very high. Game's straightforward. I like that it's, again, assuming this is based on that earlier game, War and Sheep, the idea of taking the deck of cards, eliminating it, and just adding some of those effects to the tiles themselves is a pretty good idea because you don't have to, it's easier to come to terms with what's going on when you can just walk onto the tile, flip it, look at it, and go, oh, right, that's what that does. Let me check the rule book real quick. Yes, boom, boom, deal with that. So I like that all the information is now on the board, as opposed to some of it on the board, some of it in a deck of cards. And then lastly, tactics and strategy and luck. This game has a lot of luck. That's its main, that's the main thing that you have to know going in. And it was one of the things, actually, that, again, assuming this is based on that other game, that they eliminated. In that previous game, it was certainly a slower-paced game, but you could peek at tiles around you. That could be your action or one of your actions. In this one, there's none of that. You can walk into a tile that lets you peek, but you have to find it. And so the luck has gone up a bit, in which now you could just walk right into a T-Rex on your first turn out. Yes, that's 3 victory points, but you are now dealing with fewer dinosaurs on the board. And that's okay. You can adapt to that. But there is luck, and you could... you're not sure what you're going to walk into. I like that. I don't find it problematic, especially in a game that's 15 minutes, you know. And that does, at the end of the day, I find it has a surprising amount of tactics. The games can turn very tactical, especially once the board clears up a little bit and you start developing, like, you know, lanes of movement, possible lanes of movement, then it becomes very tactical, really deceptively so. Especially for such a tiny, cutesy-looking game, in which you are allowed to, you know, you'll be able to make some interesting moves, defensive moves, offensive moves. You'll find the ability to hide behind things, you know, pop over to a new spot that puts you out of harm's way, put pressure on your opponent in a way they weren't expecting. I find that there's, again, a lot done with a little bit in this game, and I like that very much. So this designer is quite good at that, as we've seen recently from King Domino. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a superb production. It's a fun game. It packs a lot of fun and interest into a small game, into a small time frame, and it's not just a kid's game. In fact, I'm not sure it's a game I would play very often with kids, because while they can certainly understand it, the game can turn quite brutal very quickly. And so if you are going to play with kids, then just be aware of that. But overall, I think it's a really neat package. Very happy to have played it. I think this one is going to get a solid amount of play from me. I can teach this to a ton of different people, explain it very easily, play in just a few minutes, set it up and play again. Try different board configurations, things like that. Oh, and that's one other thing that I think is neat, though it doesn't really add too much to the replayability. It's just a little... it's like a little bonus sprinkled on top, you know, the fact that it doesn't have to be a square board. That's fine, but not that big a deal. Overall, though, thumbs up from me. This one's going to get a seal of approval. Very much enjoy it. Definitely look for it if you are into games that are both tactically fun, rich, but lively, colorful, and cute. That is Jurassic Snack. I'm Z Garcia. I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.